guys, thanks for clicking on my easy holiday makeup tutorial with a bold red lip. Let's fix this, shall we? So first, skin prep. This is nice because it moisturizes your skin, and both of them have a nice little tint. You want to make sure you massage those in really well until they disappear and sink into your skin. Skin's looking pretty good. Now some concealer. This is MAC Pro Longwear Concealer. It's a pretty full coverage concealer, and I'm using it in a shade or two lighter than my skin tone because I'm using it to cover as well as highlight the center of my face, so I have a nice brightness. And I'm using a makeup sponge just to bounce that in and kind of marry that and melt that into my skin. Now I'm setting my skin with Studio Fix powder and NC25. It's a foundation powder. I like it because it adds just a little bit of coverage to my Tinted Moisturizer, and I'm blending that in with a MAC 187 brush. I'm really buffing that in, and like it says, make sure you take it down the neck. Skin is done. Now I'm going to take a nice fluffy brush with some Give Me Sun bronzer by MAC, and I am going to take a little bit of that on my brush and then just buff that, kind of sculpting my face with my bronzer. I guess you could kind of call it contouring, but I'm also warming up the perimeter of my face. So I used a light concealer in the center of my face to brighten, and now I'm using a nice warm bronzer around the outside of my face to sculpt my cheeks, my chin, my nose, just to give life back to my skin. And you really want to buff that in and watch out for crazy hairs. Now I'm using just a little e.l.f. brush. These are great. I think I got it for like $3. And this neutral blush by MAC, it's Warm Soul. And taking a little bit of that on my brush and smiling real big and putting that on my apples of my cheeks and blending backwards. And I added a little bit too much blush. So now I'm going to go back with my MAC 187 brush that had remnants of my powder and just take some of that color down a little bit and make sure everything is nice and blended on my skin. I love this palette, the Too Faced Chocolate Bar palette. It's got a lot of nice neutral tones and nice shimmers and nice mattes. And taking that neutral light color that's matte all over my lid just to kind of set anything on my lid as well as to brighten. And just buffing that in with a Real Techniques brush. Get a good look so far. Now I'm going into my chocolate bar palette and I'm taking my crease color, which like it says is a neutral matte brown. Taking that on the same brush, and now I'm going to deposit that in my natural socket, the natural arc of my eye, and I'm just going to take windshield wiper motions and blend that back and forth until it's buffed in. That's going to be the transition color because I'm going to be using other colors, so I want to make sure that that marries well with all the rest of my colors. So just buffing that in. It's not about applying a ton of color, it's about really buffing it in and making sure that the color is soft and diffused. So really taking your time. Like it says, blend, blend, blend. Okay, now I'm taking a smaller, more precise crease brush by MAC, and now I'm taking it on a darker matte brown in my palette. I'm going to take a little bit of that on the tip of the brush. And for this part, I'm going to be defining the outer part of my crease. Do you see what that does? Just kind of adds a little bit of depth to the eye. And again, I'm just buffing that in, making sure that marries well with the rest of my shadow and they kind of blend into each other, but you still see a nice amount of definition. And taking my time to buff that in. I would much rather pick up more shadow than deposit too much and have to spend a whole lot of time blending. But I am going back and I am blending out the edges of my shadow with that brush that I used before. And then going back in with that dark crease color just to make sure everything's defined. Now I'm taking a flat stiff brush, and like it says here, you can't see the color, but it's like a iridescent champagne color. And I'm just packing that on the non-moving part of my lid, just to add a nice bright pop on the lid. And I'm using a packing motion and a little bit of swiping just to blend it in. Okay, now I'm taking the lighter, even lighter champagne kind of color. It kind of has a soft pink hue, and I'm using that to highlight the tear ducts of my eyes, and of course blending those in. And I'm using that to brighten the inner part of my eye, as well as taking that up under my brow bone just to make it pop a little bit more and highlight that brow bone. A little more. Okay, now for brows, I'm using NYX Micro Brow in the shade Ash Brown. I like it because it's kind of a hard pencil, so it makes it a little easier to kind of be heavy-handed with it, because you're not going to be depositing as much product. You kind of have to work a little bit harder to get the product down, which makes for a much softer brow. And then I'm also using that spoolie to diffuse and brush in that color to make sure it stays nice and soft. And I'm brushing upward and making sure that I am adding my brow strokes in the direction of the hair growth. So up in the front and swooping down towards the tail. And remember, brows are sisters, not twins, so they might be slightly different. Mine are certainly different, so you can kind of get them as close as possible, but don't stress too much if your brows look slightly different. Just going back in with my spoolie just to make sure that color is nice and soft. And I kind of take the tail down a little bit just to give my brows a more exaggerated arch. You can use your finger to buff in the front of your brow if it looks too heavy. Okay, now some black gel liner. This is by MAC. It's Black Track. Taking it on a skinny Real Techniques brush, and I'm just going to get it as close to my lash line as possible. And I'm gonna wing it out, girl. Because I think for this look it's very classic. So I just want to, you know, just kind of make the eyes pop, give them some nice shape. And who doesn't like a good wing liner? Same on the other side. I like to flick out and then bring my brush inwards back towards my eye just to make sure that line is nice and straight. And now I'm just using, I think it's Maybelline, it's their clear mascara, but I use it for my brows just to kind of brush everything up. And always I like to take a good curl on my lash, and I'm using MAC's Extended Play Mascara, which is a great tubing mascara. It has a skinny brush which really helps to define your lashes and prevents them from getting super clumpy or thick, which is what I want. I want them to be nice and defined and fluffy because I'm going to be using a pair of wispy lashes. You might not want to try my technique of opening your lash glue with your mouth, but I've done it a few times, so that's how I roll. And now I'm laying down my lashes. I always tell people that you want to lay your lashes down as close to your lash line as possible. Your lashes should kiss your natural lash line. They shouldn't blend in together, but they should touch. And then you kind of pinch them together. And now I'm going to highlight with this LA Colors highlighting palette. I just mixed all the colors together, and I'm highlighting my nose and the tops of my cheekbones, my Cupid's bow, and just going over that brow highlight that I did. Now I'm using a sugar scrub, which I love because this one tastes like Coca-Cola, and it's very important to prep your lips before you use any lip products, but especially with the lip product I'm going to use. I want to make sure my lips look super awesome and are super exfoliated and smooth and hydrated. Okay, now that I wiped everything off, I'm going to go in with my blue-red color here, which is a very classic color. This is Christina Aguilera's favorite color, and you'll be able to see why. It is just the most beautiful cherry red, perfect for the holidays, very festive. And now I am applying my first layer. You can't see too well here, but I'm stretching my lips out, and I'm applying in one direction on the bottom lip, and then one direction on the top lip. And then I'm going to kind of fan and let that layer dry before I go in with my second layer. And then I'm going to repeat the same thing. Second layer. And then third layer. Now the nice thing about the applicator on this product is that you can sort of use it to line your lips and define your lips, so you don't really need a lip liner, which is wonderful. So letting that all dry, I have 3 coats. 3 coats is recommended. And now I'm going to use the moisturizing gloss, which I love. This is the Glossy Gloss. I love it because it has shea butter and vitamin E, and it really hugs the lips. I actually have found that using this product with the glossy gloss, my lips have improved. I no longer suffer from dry lips. And look at that wand, it's totally clean, not an ounce of product. Now I'm gonna go ahead and set my face using a nice moisturizing mist and just gonna fix myself up so that way you can see the final product. And that's it. Kind of a soft, neutral eye with a wing liner, some lashes, and a smudge-proof, budge-proof, kiss-proof lip. Look, nothing on my hands. And this is just great because you can, you know, kiss your honey under the mistletoe and drink your champagne and eggnog and it won't transfer. So thanks guys, enjoy that and let me know if you have any questions about any of the products I used.